Our next speaker is Erica Finkle. Erica is Director of AI Policy at Meta. Since joining what was then Facebook in 2017, she has worked to develop approaches both internally and in public policy to promote the responsible development of technologies like machine learning and AI. Most recently, she has led Meta's policy, safety, and governance approaches to AI agents. Finkle and her team have worked closely with other teams within the company, product, engineering, research, as well as external technology policy experts to advance responsible practices for users interacting with the company's products and technologies. There's a bit more, but if you'd like to learn more about her, you're welcome to view her bio on the website. So her talk is entitled The Year or Years of AI Agents, Opportunities and Challenges in Depth.
All right, thanks. It's okay, I know you're not clapping because I'm from Meta, it's all right. I'm here to say what Anka said yesterday. I do work for Meta. I'm also a human and I come in peace. So just to copycat on her. I am focusing my presentation today on some of the more immediate opportunities and open questions on AI agents. I think it's helpful to clarify at the outset that that isn't any notion that the short term should be addressed at the expense of the long term or the more systemic risks. Indeed, Meta did just publish its Frontier AI framework in the lead up to the summit. However, this event kicked off with Joshua speaking about autonomous agents, and I thought it would be very bold and silly to try and cover the same terrain. And so I am sitting here amongst presentations and a variety of speakers over the course of a few days, in which I've been whittling down a lot of my topics because they've been so thoroughly and well covered. And I'll try and reference many of those people as I go throughout. And cover a sort of broader terrain than both of our prior speakers. I have a bit of a mantra in my work, which is to, in a crowded space in need of solutions, go where others aren't. So I'll try and kind of focus as I go on areas that I haven't heard covered as in depth previously. So with that, kicking it right off. I'm going to have a hot take to start us off for everyone, maybe a controversial take. Over the years, I've read a lot of, hoity-toity think pieces about anthropomorphizing agents and anthropomorphizing AI, and the notion of humanizing the non-human, in particular with technology, but even with animals or toys, books, etc. It was a very old debate, right? Just as old as the debate about whether technology can be part of the solution. And my personal answer is that for agents, yes, of course, they are not humans. The important part, though, is that that is both good and bad. Actually, in contradiction to some of your research, so I'm going to apologize, I was speaking to an external researcher, not a Meta researcher, about a piece of research that was simulating agents. And in particular, it was focused on agents who simulate human behaviors and the applications for the social sciences. And it was myself and a number of Meta researchers, and we queried about safety and how they were aligning the agents as a part of this research. And the researcher shared something with me that I thought was like, sort of surprising and unsurprising in a way. So when they put a bunch of agents together for the simulation, again, the whole point was to simulate human behaviors. The agents were all like really polite and respectful to one another. And so they were already quite aligned. And that was actually detrimental to the purpose of the research because they were meant to simulate human behaviors. And we humans are not always acting aligned, right? And not always acting polite and not always acting in the ways maybe that we would expect of ourselves and others. And so, especially in our online behaviors. And so alignment didn't quite work well for the exercise of simulating human behaviors. And so that's just kind of one example of agents, not humans, both good and bad. And I don't mean to share that as, oh, agents are always just going to be by default wonderful and, very great by comparison to humans. That's one anecdote, one piece of research, one takeaway. So I don't want to dismiss any of the sort of broad concerns over, self-preservation or deception or scheming that we've heard a bunch about. But it is a helpful context to keep in mind, in which I have depicted here. This is 2 Meta Llama agents being very sort of heartfelt and kind in, of course, a very open-ended environment, and then a bunch of humans acting like wild animals. And so I thought this was like an important sort of like orientation for the rest of the talk. We'll keep coming back to the notion that agents aren't humans. And one last piece of research on this that I was recently engaging with was one where there were a series of experiments that were conducted to determine whether humans versus agents matters for what should be done in a variety of moral trade-offs. And unsurprisingly, it does. And it is what you would expect, which is that more often agents are expected to opt for things like fairness over, at the expense of maximizing utility. So they are sort of associated with this notion of they need to choose the sort of the higher moral ground in a lot of those situations. Okay, so moving right along. Definitions of agents. I've established that humans aren't agents and agents aren't humans. I'm several minutes in, so I should speed this up. There are about as many definitions of agents as there are potential uses. These are just a few. I'm speaking mostly to the researchers in the scientific community here for a second. How you define an agent has meaning from a policy perspective for how agents are governed and regulated. And so while I'm moving quickly through this, I do want to emphasize it's a very important concept that everyone should be considering quite thoroughly. The Future of Privacy Forum, as one example, put out a paper on agents in a data protection context. I think it was about yesterday. It was very recent. And it demonstrates this point, and it also has links to all of these definitions. So if you need that as a resource and you want to come back to these definitions, you can find that from the Future of Privacy Forum. Okay. Agent capabilities is one way that we are thinking about agents and the sort of increasing advancement of agents as the capability set grows. And there's as many different ways to talk about agent capabilities probably as there are to slice of pie. So this is my quite inartful depiction, attempt to show some of the more prevalent increasing agent capabilities that are really oriented around the near term, medium term. So at the very end, in terms of advanced agents, things we're considering, agents that interact with dynamic environments like external systems, websites, databases, software applications where there are state modifications, and things like purchasing and sending messages and updating databases are all integral there. Agents replanning is referring to sort of like agents based on observed changes in the state of the world, being able to take on new information and change courses of action. Agents having greater context, having greater memory, remembering things about the world based on prior interactions, behaving differently based on who or what it's interacting with and past interactions or history. And then also agents proactively querying in order to be able to complete multi-step goals and working with a human, keeping a human in the loop and being collaborative in that sense. Of course, also we've been covering multi-agent systems and this sort of collaboration with each other as well. So all capabilities that are very relevant to the work that Meta and many others in the industry are doing with respect to agents. Just a quick note on agents and agent systems. So to ground the discussion here in terms of what 2025 is already bringing us, the year of the agents. Significant advances in research agents we've all seen, not just a call and response LLM, but truly doing research on topic X and writing a first draft and reviewing the draft and revising the draft through more research and continuing till the research covers all relevant aspects and points. Also lots of developments in UI agents. Agents that can navigate your computer or perform web tasks like clicking and scrolling and dragging the cursor. Some research being released in connection with these that shows more details on how certain UI agents are operating to date. So one piece of research recently released showed models operating in a loop and inspecting screenshots and planning with thinking tokens and specifying the next action, such as clicking a GUI or coordinates provided by the model and then processing the next screenshot. And so my third shout out to prior speakers, if you're keeping count, Chandler Smith gave an excellent talk on multi-agent systems in addition to the one we just heard. Another shout out to the World Economic Forum's AI Governance Alliance. Their Safe Systems and Technologies Working Group created this wonderful diagram here around multi-agent systems. Check out their primer and their white paper. It has more details. Okay, moving right along. I can't believe I'm already at 5 minutes. Okay, so opportunities. So a lot of people have been talking about the opportunities of agents in fields. We've heard a lot about healthcare and education and all that stuff. I'm not going to sit up here and talk about all of that. I wanted to kind of give you different notions of opportunities. So in the AI space, we talk a lot about trustworthy AI as if trust is like this static, clear line objective, like we are seeking to get to this point. And certainly when it comes to evaluating something like AGI for critical outcomes, and critical risks, it makes good sense to have thresholds. So nobody misunderstand what I'm saying. But sometimes in the context of AI, trust should be used more widely, is used more widely to speak about human interactions with technology, with agents. And in those types of contexts, I think it would benefit everyone, and there's an opportunity here to think of dynamic trust. So if you think of yourself, you don't trust people, businesses, even your favorite restaurants and things like that. Your trust for them, it might be great over time, but it usually isn't a static thing, right? It's a thing that moves. It's a thing that changes based on different experiences. And so thinking about trust in that dynamic way when it comes to agents can be a really helpful and important opportunity. So an agent might have high trust in a well-known context or environment, maybe a closed-ended environment in which it operates all the time. It might have low trust in a new environment or an open-ended environment. From a policy perspective, when it comes to thinking about agents, we consider what mistakes or errors are irreversible when thinking about where a human should be in the loop and where that might be much more important because that error or mistake of an agent might not be able to be refused or revoked. I'm using refused just so we have one refuse in this one. One of my favorite aspects of one recent piece of research was about agents being quick to recover trust, which makes a ton of sense because they apologize really quickly and then they just get going on the next thing and they don't have egos. So of course they do, right? Like, of course they're not going to spend a lot of time in terms of recovering trust. They're just going to action. And I think we heard about from Yashu about technology as part of the solution. So I'll just move right along. In terms of innovative governance, like innovating in a dynamic way in the policy realm is as equally important as thinking about trust in a dynamic way. The way to handle sort of this complex and fast-moving environment is through innovative governance. We've heard some of that already. So my colleague at Meta spoke earlier today about deliberative democracy lens to achieving more dynamic preferences in AI alignment. Benjamin Hilton spoke about safety cases and their interaction with frontier frameworks. So that's really important. And then save people time. I mean, this is the thing my family teases me about, right? They're like, the magic agent, it's going to save me time so I can spend more time with you. And yeah, hopefully it can find a contractor who can finally repair my roof. Okay, so like moving along to, I was going to share a bunch of wonderful use cases. So I take back the whole like healthcare education. I'm not going to share all of them. There are tons of wonderful use cases of Llama already from Meta. And I want to talk about them really quickly, not because, just sing all the benefits of Llama, but because we have people from 65 countries here. And because I'm a grassroots person. And so like, I'm hoping that by sharing some of these, you all take that away. Maybe people have ideas and you go back and network effects, and then more people are using AI in really beneficial ways. So Llama has been used to triage non-urgent medical concerns in rural areas in 5 different Nordic languages. It's been used in Digital Green's Farmer Chat project, which is developing on-demand agricultural advisory services for small-scale farmers in sub-Saharan Africa. In Mexico, Serpa AI is a tool that automates coding for small businesses. In the US, Llama Navigator is a Chrome extension that helps navigate and summarize government databases so people can more easily interact with public services. In Tanzania, there's a community chatbot that provides teachers with virtual assistants for generating exams, lesson notes, and course materials. So gonna move right along, almost done, and I haven't even gotten to all the wonderful open questions. So I will just stop here on one. I have been collecting open questions over the past several months, much like this guy and this meme, kind of like furiously writing them down all over the place and been like, why isn't anybody talking about this? And just a quick shout out to some research that's here from the Center for the Governance of AI. It raises a lot of really interesting and important open questions about the agent ecosystem, the way that agents are going to interact with websites, with apps, in the general like agent infrastructure, and how it's really important for us to be thinking through not just how agents interact with each other, but how agents are going to interact in the digital domain with our legal institutions, with our governing institutions, in a variety of different ways. I had intended to go in depth on many of those ways, but hey, I'm out of time. So, but check out the research, it's really wonderful, and it does go into some of the things I was gonna talk about.
One quick question.
Thank you. Just a very simple question. What do we need all these agents for?
What do I need them for? Well, that's a personal choice, right? Of what can an agent help you with? So I am not in the, Meta does not create a single specific purpose agent. It is a general use agent, and we create general use technology. And so obviously, there's going to be uses that are aligned with a lot of the products and services that Meta provides. Recommendations for whatever that might be, shopping or consumer use cases would be very aligned with all of the other services that Meta has. And then people can choose what they use AI for in a variety of ways. And so I think it's no different with Llama and with Meta AI.
All right, let's thank Erica again.